Hey everybody, Nick Licameli here. Today we're going to talk about the lateral raise and ways to keep this movement in your training, even if you have pain. Okay, so we're going to go through kind of a stepwise process of how to modify the lateral raise to still train it, but not flare up any pain. And so the idea here is that if you have pain, we want to kind of desensitize that system to that painful movement. So if you have pain, raising your arm out to the side, say like maybe right about here, what we want to do is we want to get strong around that pain, right? So we don't want to provoke the pain. We want to get strong without provoking it. And then what's going to happen is we're going to gradually expose our body to that movement and let our body understand that it's okay. It doesn't have to send that pain message every time we go to do this movement. As we get stronger and as we strengthen through graded exposure to that range of motion without pain, you will see that that range of motion and that threshold will increase, and then eventually we'll be able to do that lateral raise without pain. Now, of course, everyone is different, and if you do have pain, best thing to do is go see a qualified healthcare practitioner. But this stepwise approach to the lateral raise may be able to help too. And this can also be done pretty much for any exercise or any movement. Obviously depending on the type of pain, but it's just the mindset, the thought process of not that something is structurally wrong in the shoulder that needs fixing. Nothing is necessarily weak. Nothing is necessarily tight. It's just that our system is hypersensitive to that movement, and we want to kind of desensitize the system to that pain signal. All right, so I hope this helps. Let's take a look. So keep in mind that this video is going to talk about ways to modify the exercise, but we can also always change things like volume, intensity, frequency, RPE, right? We can always modify those types of things too if we have pain during an exercise. So the first modification here is bringing the arms a little bit out in front, so a little bit more in the scapular plane. You can see the dumbbells going more in front of my body rather than straight out to the side. Or you can exaggerate it coming back a little bit, right? So here I'm pulling horizontally, but almost a little bit backwards. Whatever angle feels best for you, that's the one you should be doing. Here I'm going to tip my thumbs a little bit up to the ceiling, right? You can see my thumbs are kind of cocked upward. That's another way to modify this. Or you can put the palms downward, more parallel to the floor. I wouldn't suggest pointing the pinky up to the ceiling, but if that feels good, you can always try that too. I realized I had to drop the weight there a little bit if I'm going to be demonstrating these things. Alright, so here we're going to shorten the range of motion. So we're not going up quite as high. Sometimes the height of the movement will be the thing that will provoke your pain. So shorten the range of motion and get strong in that range of motion. We can also add an isometric hold to the top of this. Right, so just raise up, hold, squeeze, and then down slowly. Sometimes that feels better than just a repeated repetition after repetition. So now the isometric doesn't have to be held at the top if that's the painful position. If this range of motion right here is pain-free, then go ahead and hold that isometric at that range. Whatever range is pain-free, you can use isometrics in that range of motion, right? So here I'm just showing all the different ranges of motion where you could hold the isometric contraction, and you'll still get a good training effect even though you're in pain. Sometimes just doing it unilaterally will help decrease that pain for some reason, one reason or another. It's just a different movement, different mechanic, and it may just feel better on the shoulder. You can also try doing them in myo-rep fashion, right? So myo-reps are you take the first set to failure normally, and then you stop, rest for maybe 6 to 10 seconds, and then you keep going to failure again. Stop, rest for a couple breaths, and keep going like that. So what that's going to do, it's going to keep your volume in check, right? It's going to allow you to get more work done, more quality work done, still get a training effect without jacking up your volume And if volume is what's provoking your pain, that's a great option. So back to the isometrics, if it's really flared up and all those options don't work that we just did, nothing wrong with going into a wall like this. And if this is the pain-free range of motion that we have, that's the that's the range of motion we're going to use. So get into a pain-free range. Here's a little bit higher, just before I was showing a little bit lower, and just perform an isometric into the wall, holding for maybe 10 seconds, pushing with maybe 75% effort, and doing a couple reps and sets like that until you're able to tolerate the more ranges of motion and the whole movement of the lateral raise. You can modify these isometrics the same way you would, like we talked about in the beginning. You could change the angle of your arm, you could change the effort that you push, and so on and so forth. Sometimes just changing the way we do the exercise does the trick. So maybe a seated lateral raise feels better than a standing. Maybe leaning forward a little bit more feels better than more upright. Maybe a machine like this feels better than dumbbells. It really depends, but these are all different ways you can modify this movement before getting rid of it completely. And like we talked about before, you can do these in isometrically, so at different ranges of motion. So if that's your pain-free range, that's where you can hold the isometric. If the isometric can be held a little bit higher, like right there, then you can hold it up there. But the idea is that we're finding that pain-free range of motion, and we're training within that range of motion. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want, and we'll see you next time.